My name's Tom Nielsen with Liaison Software, showing a demo of our Messenger EDD product today. Messenger EDD automates business form and report distribution. So some of the key features we're going to cover here are batch emailing, batch faxing. Believe it or not, we still get a lot of people that fax. Built-in archiving of documents. And people love Messenger for the ability to attach supporting documentation for outbound documents. So what we're looking at here is the Messenger print server. The Messenger server, we're going to spend most of our time talking about the Messenger server, but keep in mind as we go through the demo, the people that use Messenger on a day-to-day basis never go into the Messenger print server. This just runs in the background or runs as a service. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull up a quick PowerPoint here, give you a quick minute training session from an end user perspective. So the end user being the person that creates invoices, orders, purchase orders, statements, any type of business form or report. That individual has two functions when it comes to Messenger. One is that they print through their existing print procedure. The other function that they have is they update email addresses, and if they're faxing, update fax numbers on the customer record. Now, for the sake of the demo, we're going to focus on the customer as the recipient, but keep in mind, Messenger could be used for sending documents to vendors like EFT remittances or purchase orders. We could be sending copies of documents to salespeople, warehouses, territories. And we have a number of clients that use Messenger for sending direct deposit statements to employees also. Now, the last bullet here is the preference. That's the method of distribution. So that's typically either print, email, or fax. And Messenger has a hierarchy in a Messenger that handles the preference. So if you set the hierarchy to email print, it looks for the email address on the customer record. If it finds it, it emails it out. If it does not find an email address in the field that we're using, then it prints it to an assigned printer. So if you have a batch of, say, 100 invoices, hopefully all of them have email addresses, but if you don't, it's going to email out, say, the 95 that have email addresses, and the remaining 5 would be printed only because there was not an email address available. So just to summarize, from an end user perspective, you print with the print driver through the existing print procedure, and you update email addresses on the customer record. Everything else we're going to cover now is all initial setup on the Messenger server machine. So let's close this window here. So again, Messenger server runs on a workstation that you treat like a server box, or in a hosted environment. Here are your different emailing options. A little bit of background. We have over 1,400 companies that have run Messenger over the past 21 years. By far, the majority of them use one Outlook email client set up on the Messenger server machine. Now, these days, we're definitely seeing more and more people obviously use Office 365. You can see that last radio button there. It also works with SMTP and Gmail, and even a standard MAPI client. Okay, to spend about 15 seconds on faxing, we do support faxing. The most common faxing option is this top one, Internet Fax Service. It's where you set up an account with a company like eFax or MyFax or GoToFax, and we email the fax out to that third party. So let's close that. Go back to the Task Manager. In the top right corner, I'm in active companies. So keep in mind that all the settings that we're about to go over, you can set them up for one company and then clone those settings for the additional companies, additional databases. Okay, I'm going to focus on Fabricam here. On this drop-down list here are the different scripts that you could set up. And as you can see, it's mainly used for business form distribution, but it could be other types of reports also. Now I'm going to focus on the invoice script and the statement script. And they've gone through the standard print routine and then printed with our print driver. So they could have had a batch of, say, 100 invoices that they've selected. By printing with the print driver, it creates a PDF of the print stream, sends the PDF to the Messenger server, which is what we're looking at. The Messenger server takes the PDF, looks for the script that it's associated to, and then distributes based on the rules set up in the script. And then remember, this is all initial setup here. This is the script that I'm going to kick off in a couple of minutes. Now, line 1 in the script is creating an accounting copy. So if the customer needed a hard copy printed in-house to attach to other paperwork, that's line number 1. That's this example. And this is printing to my HP 8020 printer. Now, line 2 is an example of a static attachment. What we're doing here is we're taking this PDF here that I have listed, we're taking this and we're merging it with the invoice. This is a 2-page marketing brochure that I've highlighted here. So a static attachment is commonly used on purchase orders where you attach terms and conditions to the purchase order. Now, a second attachment is going to be included. This is a variable attachment. So here we're going to grab detailed information from another system that we're storing in this folder down in the bottom left. And we're using the invoice number off of the invoice to go into this folder and grab the applicable detailed information. That's going to be embedded into the PDF. It could also have been attached as a separate attachment if you'd like. After we grab the attachments, line number 4 is then going to distribute to the recipients, pulling the email address off of the customer record. And then we're going to archive a copy to a folder. Remember, all of this is triggered by printing once with our print driver through the existing print procedure. So what you have down here is you have 2 additional copies. You don't see this copy used as often as you used to. This is a sales copy. We're looking at the salesperson ID number on the invoice, going back to the recipient list for salespeople, and we're grabbing and then I'm sure emailing based on their preference a copy to the salesperson. And my last example is a filtered copy. So line number 7 is we're saying email as the method of distribution. We're then emailing it to the controller down here. And line number 7 is only triggered based on a filtered criteria set up here. So in this example, we're saying if the total amount of the invoice is greater than $10,000, that's the only time line number 7 will be triggered. Any data that we're capturing off of the report can be used to filter off of. Okay, so again, this is the script I'm going to kick off in a couple of minutes. This script is linked to your existing reports. Okay, so it requires the use of your existing report. It uses a Crystal report, SSRS report. It really doesn't matter what the report writer is. I'm using one down here. I'm going to pull up an example of the report right now. This is the one that I'm using here in this report, in this script. Okay, now you see these hidden fields up here in the header? We call these data identifier tokens. By having these hidden fields in the report, it allows us to see the data in that report that we need to see. And the script that we just went over helps us determine the tokens. So that script back here, right here. So we were routing a copy to the customer. We're going to capture the customer ID number off of the invoice so we could route accordingly. We're going to use the invoice number field. We're going to use that data to go and create the archive invoice name and also the email being the attachment sent out via email. If you look on the right-hand side, you can see an example of the tokens that are added into the existing reports, but it does use the customer's existing reports. I'm going to open one up here. Okay, here's an example of a token. And in the center of this string is the invoice number field name for this report. Okay, so we work with someone from your team on adding the hidden fields into the report. With Business Central, the big difference there is that we're pulling all the data. Remember I showed the tokens in the reports. We actually only have really 1 or 2 tokens in a Business Central report, and actually we grab the data through an XY coordinate, but we're really grabbing all the data through a web service. So we have a web service that's going to go out and grab all the related data that we need related to that script, and you print with the print to email function in Business Central. So what it does is it creates an email of the PDF and sends it to our, with Business Central, the Messenger server is still required to be running in the customer's office. And we're emailing a PDF to the Messenger server, and then we're processing from there. But it's all done through the print to email function in Business Central. There's 3 levels of pricing. So if you have 1 to 10 System Manager users, it falls into our level 1 pricing, $2,595. That includes 10 print driver licenses. Every user / workstation that prints to the Messenger server requires a print driver license. Annual support is 18% of the software costs and gives you unlimited phone and email support and software updates. If the customer has 11 to 20 System Manager users, it falls into the level 2 pricing, which includes 20 print driver licenses, and there's the support for that level. And then level 3 is if they have greater than 20 system users, they get 30 print driver licenses, and the support is 18% also. So that's Messenger EDD. I appreciate everybody's time, and please let me know if you have any questions.